Hello, thanks for joining us for our 8th episode of the Cerulean Skies RPG podcast. This is a weekly podcast aimed at the myriad of RPG subjects that we here at Cerulean Skies are passionate about, so it's aimed to be a mix of produced podcasting, live stream discussion, and we always encourage folks to engage with these streams or VODs through either the Twitch chat, Discord, or through whatever aspects of social media. I'm your host, Joey, and today I'm joined by Rachel.
Oh,
And Isaiah.
Hello.
And I'm experiencing some weird issues with my mic, so if you guys are listening to the VOD, just know that it will be resolved at some point. So if there's an issue, it'll be ironed out. But as we always try to do with new contributors to the show, we're going to be talking about some of their favorite RPGs to get a feel for each other's preferences on the show proper. So we will also be trying to talk about a second topic, and that will be portable console RPGs. So the Vita, the GBA, the PSP, the DS, and the 3DS, and even, hey man, the WonderSwan Color. These all have pretty extensive RPG libraries, so we'll probably have a laundry list of titles to cover. And we'll see where the night takes us. So for the next 90 or so minutes, man, we are portable. But before we get started with this podcast, you guys are new here. And what we always try to do for the new people who jump on this podcast is introduce yourselves. What might the internet know you for? And Isaiah, will start with you.
Hello. All right. You may know me as Zenoga, the strong opinion haver. I don't really do anything in particular. You might have seen one of my reviews. I've been doing it for about a year now. So there are a decent number. I think there's about 15 or 16. And mostly I cover like RPGs, platformers. And there's like the odd, I want to say, like, let me see, RPG platformers. What other genres have I done? I think that's really it, actually. And I did like one Souls-like game, and that's it.
What was the Souls-like game?
Oh, yeah. It was Blasphemous.
Oh, okay. Midsfamous.
If you want to call that a Souls-like game.
Yeah, I feel like, it has a little. I feel like that its influence is more so in like the world and the vibe than anything, but I wouldn't be mad calling it that. Rachel, how about you? What do we know you for?
gosh, I'm aware of many faces because I am a cosplayer. That's what I was known on the internet first, and became a bit of a household name in my hometown. And I was actually the reason why I got to be known in certain circles was I cosplayed a certain character from a certain RPG, Cindy from Final Fantasy 15. If you guys know who that is, you know what she looks like, and you know why. Probably I got to be well known.
Wait, Cindy from 15?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, gotcha.
How about them decals, y'all?
Oh no.
Oh yeah. But I don't do cosplay as actively anymore. I used to go to about 4 to 5 cons a year, but now I go to like maybe 1 or 2, or maybe like a Ren fair. I'm a bit more low key with it now because it's an expensive hobby. But I've filled that void with, of course, Twitch streaming, and I'm also a graphic designer for another podcast called The Crit Show, which is a tabletop RPG podcast, and they mainly play the powered by the apocalypse games. But I'm there. If you see their stuff out on social media, I probably made whatever they're posting. So,
Ooh, I didn't know that you were that frequent with it for some reason. Because I checked it out before when you first mentioned it.
Mm-hmm.
I guess we'll let it slip that there's always a little bit of nepotism on these shows, right? Because I know Rachel through Jeremy, and the shout out to the Zen's Path 4-Button podcast as well, because I feel like we met on there.
We did, yeah.
Yeah, so hell yeah. Thanks, Jeremy, for bringing all these together. I would love to have you on this show one day, my friend, but you're like, I don't play that many RPGs. I don't really know that much about them. I just buy them. That's my Jeremy voice. It sounds a lot like.
Oh my god.
It sounds nothing like you. You're the bestest, sweetest dude if you are listening to this. But yeah. So anyway, portable RPGs. This is something that actually this is a good segue because I feel like this is something that he has a lot of and likes to talk a lot about portability. So portable RPGs, guys. I think I'm biased because I've been playing a lot of DS games lately. Played a little Infinite Space this morning. Anyone ever play that?
I've heard of
I've
it.
never heard of it.
Oh, dude, it's one of Platinum Games' first titles.
Oh.
Oh, that explains it.
Yeah, but it's an RPG still. It's like a sort of like a semi turn-based game. It's pretty cool. Yeah.
Interesting.
So good ass game. I played a little bit of it back in the day. I did not know it was Platinum Games. I don't think Platinum Games really had as big of a reputation, apart from like some of their members being part of like the Okami team and God Hand and stuff.
Right.
But yeah, I feel like maybe that's like a cool little way to start that as like the DS games. But what about you guys? What are some of your favorite RPGs? Because we actually do need to talk about that first, right? So yeah, what are some of your preferences? What are your faves? Rachel, we'll start with you.
Oh gosh. Well, I primarily play like RPGs, open world adventure stuff. This is like my bread and butter. I don't really play any other genre because I guess I'm a glutton for punishment for games I'll never finish. But I like I'm a big Square Enix fan, so I love all the Final Fantasies. 15 is my modern favorite, and then 8 is I guess my more retro favorite.
You
But then
have absolutely incredible taste.
oh well, thank you.
Aw.
Oh, thank you very much.
We're just here to prop Rachel up, and this is gonna be 90 minutes of that. It's gonna be rad as hell.
Oh man, but I like Kingdom Hearts too, you know. So that's another big thing. And then I'm the series that everyone loves but also likes to make fun of, which is the Tales of series. If you guys know the Tales of games.
I've never heard of
Yeah.
it. I have no idea what
Yeah.
that is.
Oh. The sarcasm, but yeah, no, those are kind of those are just a handful of my favorite RPGs. I just wanted to kind of give a broad like overview, I guess, and save the platform favorites for like the portable platform ones for later. So, but
Hell yeah.
because there's a few of those too.
I see Golden in the chat. I think Golden is a big Tales fan, right? I know he's played a bunch of games. So, but Isaiah, what about you, man? What are some of your favorites?
I usually like RPGs that like have like a really big emphasis on like gameplay rather than story. I do like a good story, but like if I can like get sucked in, just play it, get all zen for hours, that'd be great. So usually my favorites are like the Golden Sun games on GBA,
Good.
the Etrian Odyssey games, and some of the earlier Final Fantasy games, not necessarily like 4 or 6, because those have a lot of
Mhm.
story, but like Final Fantasy 1, I
Hey,
don't I don't actually like 3 that much. Um
dude.
Final
All right, let's
Final Fantasy
go.
1 and 5.
Hell yeah.
So
Three
yeah.
with the 3 hate right off the bat.
Man.
I like all Final Fantasies, but 3, I don't know, man. I don't have a lot of nostalgia for it though, to be fair, because obviously that didn't come out here until much later. Much later. But yeah, like it seems like there's a lot of crossover here between your tastes. I know that you're both Golden Sun fans.
Love Golden Sun.
Oh, absolutely.
You're a Golden Sun fan too,
Mm-hmm.
Joey.
Yeah, but I'm not. I'm just the mediator. what I have to say is not important, unless it's about infinite space. In which case, that if I mention infinite space, then it's definitely important. But other than that, no. I mean, like, did you play the DS one, Rachel?
Oh yeah, so I that's the only one that I've completed like twice. I think
Oh
the other
wow,
ones
wow,
I
nice.
yeah.
Done? What the Oh, okay.
Wait, what? What?
No, I just have like a knee-jerk reaction to Dark Dawn. I like that game. I think it's decent, and it gets a
Same.
little bit
Yeah,
too much hate, but like,
it's
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 it's the worst one by a
Yeah, yeah.
mile.
yeah, it is. It for sure is, but I liked how they, they put it on the modern consoles at that point, and I really wanted it to do well, and it did, but well, not well enough for them to continue it, I guess. But I still hold out hope. I still hold out hope
Oh,
that
I was
we'll
some
get we'll get it on the
11.
Switch or something as like a trio, like they'll just push it out digitally.
Yeah,
Um
fingers crossed.
and then maybe
Yeah.
it'll just, like inspire them to finally, finish up that cliffhanger cuz good god.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yep. I'm turning my light blue for Alex right now. That's what I'm doing.
uh valid.
I
Very
was
But
a
valid.
dumb 11-year-old when Dark Dawn came out. I didn't understand the concept of a game not doing well in terms of money.
God, what year did Dark Dawn come out? I'm trying to remember.
2011.
2007. What? That late? Oh my god.
Came out in 2011?
Wait,
Oh.
2011 or 2010? I forgot. I think it was 2011.
Oh, man, that's so late. Hold on. Let me take a look.
Somebody Google foo this. Somebody Google foo this.
Um yeah, 2010. At least
Oh,
in
2010.
original release 2010. Let's see when it came out in the Yeah, same end of the year, but still. That's
So
wild.
just before I started working at Ye Old Stop of Game. So
Wow, and wow, and then some little babies on this podcast, I swear to God. Only maybe only one little baby on this podcast.
I
Um
I am not a little baby because I
no,
turned 30 this year.
it's Isaiah. He's a little baby.
um
We've nurtured him. He's he's hit his potential. It's
he's
glorious.
innocent.
But yeah, no, I think actually this brings up a good point about Golden Sun.
Mhm.
The intro to Golden Sun 1. How do you guys feel about this?
It's long. It's super long.
Very long.
Very long intro. I feel like on a handheld, on a GBA, because when that game came out, I'm like 95% certain that the SP was not out yet.
It was 2001, I think. So I think it was still the original.
Yeah.
And I remember that being a really hard sell for me because you had to sit in front of a light without, it was just really hard to see. And so like I remember it took me forever to get into Golden Sun 1 because of that.
Mhm.
And I had a lot of tolerance for long intros back then, but I feel like on a console RPG that would have just immediately been the death knell.
I
Like right
remember
there.
I remember like, playing on my Game Boy Color and my Game Boy Advance with that little like squiggly weird like light that plugged into the side and
Mm.
you're like this
It
close to
doesn't
the
work.
screen
Yeah.
and it works but it doesn't work, you know?
Yeah.
And then of course when I finally got the SP, it was like, "Oh my god, I can see everything." And game changer, man. Game changer, especially for RPGs cuz
Oh yeah.
and there's so much to do and see on the screen with that.
Yeah, and
Oh.
no, go ahead.
Uh.
Go ahead.
Okay. So I got Golden Sun from Club Nintendo as like a free
Oh.
game on my
Hell
Wii U.
yeah. Oh, from on the Wii U?
Oh, nice.
Yeah, on the Virtual Console.
Yeah, nice.
And I back then I had like very low patience
Mhm.
for like dialogue and text, and I still kind of do. But I don't know. I wasn't ever really all that bothered by it. I just kind of wanted to see what was up with the game, and I'm glad I did because I really like it. And then the second game, like, it has a really short intro by comparison. So.
Yeah, because I feel like they kind of learned their lesson with that.
Yeah.
Um,
They're like, okay, we've introduced what we want to introduce. We don't need to reinvent the wheel with this one. Let's make it shorter and just get them into the action. So
yeah, and also Mikhail said that it's like 1/4 of the speed run. Just the intro is like 1/4 of the
yeah,
speed run.
I believe it.
honestly, not wrong.
Man, that whole okay, so like 2000 until like 2000 and I don't know 10, there was so many games with fucking absurdly long intro. Twilight Princess, another really good example of that.
geez.
Oh my
Yeah.
god.
Yeah, like I love Twilight Princess, but that intro, ooh man, we don't
Oh,
need
man,
that.
I remember I got the game, right? And I think my mother came into the room, was like, and she goes, "Are you still in that village?" And I'm like, "I am still in that village." Even my mother, who doesn't play games at all, was surprised that I was still in that village. So,
Oh, funny enough, I got Skyward Sword when my grandma was living with us. And I
mhm.
remember my grandma like didn't know what a video game was. And I remember she was watching me play a little bit of it, and she said because it was the same thing. I just got the game and I'm putting it on the TV and I'm playing it, and then for like 2 hours she's just like sitting there watching me play, and she's like, "Is there anything other than running around in this game?" And I'm like, "Damn!" When even my grandma takes the 2 points off that review score, you know that maybe the intro could have been trimmed down a little bit.
Listen, when parents, grandparents, whatever, they, a lot of times they have no concept of games whatsoever unless they themselves are a gamer, and they'll sit down next to you and they'll watch it because to them it's like a TV show or a movie. And of course, the benefit of it being a game is you can pause it and answer their questions, uh, which is amusing but also, annoying. But I think long intros in games can make or break a game, because you can lose a good portion of your audience if they find themselves like bored because they've been stuck in an intro sequence
Yeah.
for 4+ hours.
Okay,
So,
this is a really good point. This is such a good point, and I have a fucking great segue. So,
mhm,
like I said, our topic is portable RPGs, right? And we're talking
right.
about long intros and
Yeah.
Golden
Mhm.
Sun. So, let's take a game that has a notoriously long intro, maybe one of the longest, if not the number one longest. We got
Mhm.
Mr. Dragon Quest VII for PS1. Game takes like 2 hours to get to the first enemy. I mean, obviously a speed run probably be quicker, but
Yeah.
it takes like 2 hours before you even get to the first enemy, and then
Mhm.
even then it's like, bro, you don't get moving schmoving until like 5 hours into that game. There's a dumbass puzzle you got to do, and then so they remade Dragon Quest VII for the
Mhm.
3DS.
Right.
And one of the things that they did was they made that intro sequence like, I'm just gonna say half as long, you know?
Yeah.
And part of that works really, really well because it it's exactly like you were saying, Rachel, like you're gonna take your audience right out. And even though the world is cool, the story is interesting, people play games for different reasons. Isaiah said
Yeah.
he's way more gameplay focused than story focused. That game would have put his ass to sleep, you know?
Yeah.
It did. I bought Dragon Quest VII on 3DS when it came out, and I was so absurdly bored with it that I went and sold it. I have it again now. I bought it again because I want to give it another chance, but I did not like Dragon Quest VII at all when I first played it.
I'm so glad you said that because I was just gonna toss it to you too, and I'm like, that was the perfect. And okay, so like I feel like that's a game that was redesigned sort of with portability in mind.
Yeah.
And so, okay, what got you hooked back on it? Like, what made you say, "Hey, maybe my more formed brain would be more receptive to this game"? Like, what was the moment that pulled you into it?
Um, well, I do want to stress I have not beaten that game yet because it's
Mm.
really long.
It's like 700
But
hours. Yeah,
yeah,
you haven't even been alive that long.
It's mostly because I played some other Dragon Quest games, and every Dragon
Yeah.
Quest game I've beaten so far, I've really liked. 8, 5, and 3 are all amazing.
Hell yeah.
And I want to play 7 because I know a lot of people really like that game if they just put in the legwork to get
Right.
past, I guess, the boring bits, if we're being blunt about it.
Mm.
And I want to try it again because I want to play like classic RPGs that are actually super long because those are more so a thing that's like propping up. Like I want to say, starting with like the PS1 era or the
Mhm.
PS2 era, where RPGs started to get insanely long. Like
Yeah.
I beat Xenoblade 3 pretty recently. Well, it wasn't
Oh,
recently. It was
don't
in.
tell me
It was in.
anything.
Oh
He's a
no, no,
hater.
no, no,
He's a hater.
I don't hate the game. It's just
No,
I
look, being
have
a hater and hating the game are not mutually exclusive.
No, they're not.
I
I
have thoughts on Xenoblade 3, and part of those thoughts is that game is insanely fucking long, but that's like normal for Xenoblade.
Yeah.
so you need like a self-contained like mid-length RPG. That's what your goals are.
Not necessarily. It's mostly just how well paced is it,
It's
because
pacing.
I
Yeah.
love a long RPG if it's
Yeah.
like paced well. Like
I think pacing is really important, and I think what happens in a lot of these older RPGs is, say for example, like people have lives, and you can't always play it every day, and then sometimes you put it down for like a few weeks, and then you're like, I'm gonna play this again, and you load up your save, and then you're just standing in the middle of the world map, and you're just like, I am
Yeah, what do I do?
lost. Where am
But
I?
you know what? Funny enough for you, Dragon Quest VII has an exact answer to that problem. Because
Yeah,
when you
I
load in
know.
that game, it's like, "Ooh, you've been doing this."
It'll tell you stuff. That was my favorite thing about Echoes of an Elusive Age. Um, I think the latest Dragon Quest is
yeah,
you could shut that game off for 6 months, and then you turn it back on, and it does that little narrative sequence in the beginning, and you're just like, hey, this is where you're at. This is what you were doing before, and this is what you were supposed to be doing. You might actually not be doing that, but that's what you should be doing. And it just basically just goes, hey, here you could go. Because
I don't know why games don't do that more.
I think it's becoming more common practice,
Yeah,
which
yeah.
is good, because it means that developers are realizing that sometimes our attention spans are not great, or we have lives and we have to go do a thing, and sometimes you'll put a game down for a couple of months.
Maybe I'll
And
finally be able to play more Trails if that happens.
oh god.
Not
I own
Trails again, the 8th episode in a row where somebody brings up Trails and then there's a huge sidebar and then I start ranting about Coomers.
I won't
I can't
won't
do this
bring it
again.
up. I own like the first Trails of Cold Steel on 3 different consoles, and have I finished it? No. But
Look, Rachel, all Trails of Cold Steel 3 tells me is that the whole theme of that game is you are late to horny class. So I don't know. I feel like you may have dropped horny class.
oh wow. Oh wow.
Bring out your dead, but with Coomer's Solstice. Okay, that's good. But okay, so I actually had a really good segue there for a second, and oh yeah, so that brings me to a very big centric theme I feel about portability or just portable RPGs in general, right? Is
Yeah.
the concept of pick up and play,
Mhm.
right? So
Mhm.
you know, I'm sure that there's something before the Game Boy, but one of the first big portable RPG, a lot of plosives, sorry. One of the first big portable RPGs was Saga 1 or Final Fantasy Legend.
No.
Yeah. What happened? Do you hate Saga 1?
I hate Saga 1.
Okay, well, I'm only mentioning it historically because of
I have
its
no
relation.
opinion of it.
What do you, this
I've
man
not
hates
played
Saga.
it.
This man hates
I've not
everything.
I've not played it, so I don't have an opinion of it.
Ugh.
It's technically an 80s RPG, so your mileage may vary with how much you enjoy it. But okay, I bring this up though because not to talk about the game necessarily, but historically it's probably one of the first, portable RPGs. And back then, you know, Game Boy games in particular were kind of, I don't want to say lesser because I don't know. I wasn't a Japanese game developer and then in the
Mhm.
80s and 90s, surprising to some, I know. But yeah, like I can't say this like for certain, but it just feels like the focus on game design for Game Boy was not, game design wasn't always the biggest focus for development in
Mhm.
the 80s and 90s for Game Boy games because A, the technology was so limited, B, the install base wasn't nearly as high as it is now, and C, they were kind of figuring it out. So, in a lot of ways, I feel like something like the Game Boy was sort of seen as a toy rather than, all consoles I think at the time were considered more like toys than they are now, but I feel like the Game Boy even more so, right? So one of the
Mhm.
biggest things that they try to do with RPGs and or games in general for this console, but RPGs especially, is that they were designed to pick up and play for a couple minutes. You can switch on that Game Boy, you can save anywhere in that game. You could just, or any, let's just talk like any RPGs on the Game Boy. I don't want to stick on Saga 1 so I don't have to fight Isaiah on this. But basically, you could save in the world map, you can save in the dungeons, etc., etc. So the game is designed in such a way where you pick it on, you turn it on, you move 4 steps, you get into the battle, and then your mom calls you for dinner, and hey, you did something. You actually did something. You did a battle. You
Yeah.
completed a battle, and then you saved again, and you were able to pick it up and play it and resume wherever you left off.
And it
And I
was
feel
also probably designed for like, playing on the go. Like in
right.
Japan, you're on public transportation, you're on a bus, you're on this the a metro train, like you're on some kind of form of public transportation. So your ride might be only 20 minutes.
Yeah.
So,
Right, and like that whole like pick up and go portability, like on the go, combined with the fact that I feel like game developers looked at the Game Boy at this time as like the Tiger Electronics of its
mhm,
time, where it's like,
yeah,
who cares about that? We'll just crank them out. We
yeah,
got the pictures on the side. There it is. It's all you got. It's called Final Fantasy. You're gonna fucking buy it. And
exactly.
and so like I feel like that's interesting though because I don't think that necessarily always went away, right? Like even as that series progressed on the Game Boy, the game still never really strayed too far from that, right? And now you compare that to console RPGs that at the time were you were stuck in a dungeon. Isaiah, you were talking about FF1. Um, you're stuck in a dungeon for a hell of a long time in that game. You can be in a dungeon for like 45 minutes, an hour,
Mhm.
and you can't save. You can't. There's ways to get out, sure. And Dragon Quest was like this too. But
Yeah,
so like I want to say that portable RPGs focus less on wasting your time with longer stretches of gameplay,
right.
right?
Yeah.
And it's funny because I feel like that still persists with Switch games, right? In a different way. Uh,
Mhm.
but how do you guys feel about this? Like, do you think I'm making shit up? Like, does this resonate with you at all? Feelings, opinions, etc.
I I agree. I think I I kind of miss that type of like RPG in the sense that you can save almost anywhere, mainly because like, I have a busy life and sometimes I can't like just I can't just play a game for hours and hours and hours and hours. So it's great to be able to save wherever. Even if like say you save right after a battle, but your checkpoint, like the actual like checkpoint that's in the game, is like the door at the beginning of the room. So you've only lost maybe like 5 minutes of gameplay and that kind of thing. And that's one of the things why it was like why I started absolutely loving it when games started putting save points right before like the boss battles, because for a while, a very short period of time, they didn't do that,
Yeah.
which was a disaster. Um, but I I like the idea of being able to save anywhere. Um, and I like that that's something they don't call it exactly the same thing. They call it like a quick save,
Yeah.
which is good, and I think that should be like the standard with any RPG now, because then you don't necessarily have to worry. It's not necessarily eliminating the challenge, it's just giving you another option for being able to play the game the way you want it, which is in short increments.
Right. And that's interesting. So Isaiah, I know you're a big fan of Etrian Odyssey, and I've played a couple games. I think just the first two, honestly. Um, but there's a whole slew of dungeon crawlers for the DS and the 3DS, right? You have I would even say
Yeah, there's
Pokemon
like
Mystery Dungeon, Strange
yeah,
Journey.
there's Pokemon Mystery Dungeon. I think the DS is also where Shiren the Wanderer started.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, I never played that series, and I know you have stuff like there's it's like it's kind of like the Dark Spire for DS. That's another one I think. Um,
Strange Journey as well. There's a good amount of them on there.
yeah, and Solstice says Sheeran's first Western appearance. So, but yeah, so there's a bunch of those. How do you think that like the pick up and play uh aspect of game design applies to dungeon crawlers? Do you think that maybe
Oh yeah,
they're
absolutely. Um, Mostly because it's not as short a stretch of time because like there's always going to be like a degree of chance or you getting stopped up by the game because that's
yeah.
just like the nature of dungeon crawlers. But like yeah, a lot of like what happens in those games like really like supports like you going into like the dungeon for 5 minutes so you can do a side quest or so you can go hunt this monster for a
Mhm.
specific weapon or and whatnot. So yeah, it's usually designed for like being in short bursts, and there's quick save too.
Yeah, and I feel like Rachel kind of touched a bit about on this with sort of like the aspect of difficulty or yes, accessibility in some way. Do you think that like getting a game over in Etrian Odyssey is a different experience than if it would have been on a console?
Um, Probably yes, because well, if I got a game over in Etrian Odyssey on console, I'd throw the controller first of all.
Kyle arc
The only
incoming.
thing you get to keep when you die in Etrian Odyssey is is your map data and all of like the stuff you've written down about the map. But like you
Right.
lose your supplies, your story progress, your levels, stuff
Ooh,
like that.
ooh, that would stress me out. So
Yeah.
I won't play those games.
And on console that would feel different because I guess when you're like sitting in front of like a TV for hours, like losing is like a lot more it's a lot more debilitating.
Yeah. Uh, I think that's exactly one of the reasons why Fire Emblem got such a long stretch on the GBA or on portable consoles. The three games for GBA. Uh, I guess the GameCube and the Wii are kind of an aberration there, and then you have Shadow Dragon, New Mystery of the Emblem, New Mystery of the Engine. Yeah, in that one, Marth is like he works at an auto shop and he's just trying to fix everyone's cars. Man, it's a completely different genre. But then Fate's Awakening, even Three Houses, you can say is like technically like a portable or handheld title, right? So I feel like
Yeah.
that definitely goes a long way with that series. Where if you're in the middle of the battle and then because God, man, like I feel like I very rarely meet anybody who's like, yeah, if someone dies in Fire Emblem, I just keep continuing. I don't really ever hear that take, but uh, yeah, I mean, I feel like that's exactly it sort of numbs the challenge. I don't want to say because I think a lot of people might like snub their nose at the concept of difficulty in a portable being different. but it feels like it kind of numbs that challenge a little bit more because it's so much easier to just pick up and play it. And usually portable games, especially during the DS and even GBA era, just felt snappier, right? Because you didn't have load times and presentation in your cutscenes, stuff like that. So I feel like it's funny because now, I'll play when I was playing Pokemon Gen 7 is a really good example of this. Now the roles reverse because Pokemon Gen 7 feels like you're moving through molasses the entire game as opposed to like a quick snappier experience.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
That's
many
one of the
cutscenes.
reasons that's one of the reasons why I haven't played a lot of the more recent Pokemon games. I think the last one I actually finished was White and Black. Like no lie. And maybe White 2 and Black 2. But because even though they were long and there was lots to do, it was like it was still in that short bursts kind of thing. Whereas I picked up Sun and Moon and I'm just like, I am so lost. Like there's too much for me to do. There's just a lot. And then Arceus, of course, it's massive and I don't even know how to wrap my head around it. So,
That's a good
Um,
question, actually, because you played Arceus, right, Isaiah?
I
yeah, I've played Arceus. I think Arceus it's better than the other Pokemon games in
yeah.
terms of how it handles dialogue because like
Mhm.
it's like one big burst of gameplay, then you get like a big chunk of story, and then a big burst of gameplay, and then a big chunk of story. And I think that's fine. Like the
Yeah.
dialogue can be kind of long-winded, but like that's a better setup than what Sun and Moon did, where like when you take 5 steps forward, you're hit with
Yeah.
another cutscene. Then you take another 5 steps forward, and then you get another cutscene.
We call
And
that
that's the reason
the
I
Alia moment.
I can't stand Gen 7.
Yeah.
Both of those games are pretty in their own right, though. So
Oh yeah. I still really like Gen 7, but like yeah, it's a frustrating game to or gen to go back to, I think. And
I I think I would okay. I should probably preface this. I liked Gen 7 the first time I played it. I liked it a lot actually,
I liked it more
but
for sure.
I played it 3 times within the span of about a month, and now I just don't ever want to look at it again because those cutscenes grate like crazy on repeat playthroughs.
Yeah, no, and there's you can't skip them. It's great. But that brings me to a more fundamental question, maybe that I can ask, and it's what are some elements that define portable RPGs to you guys? Rachel, I'm actually really curious to what you have to say about that.
I think length of the game. There's a it's a fine line with a portable RPG between too long and too short. Um, and some of them do it like really well, where like the parts of the game that make it longer are optional, and players don't necessarily have to take part in those sequences of the game if they don't want to. It's a lot of it has no bearing on the story whatsoever, but I think big design stuff is like shorter games and also like simpler RPGs where you don't have a lot of stuff that's either bogged down by fancy UI or mechanics or just additional options. Like I get kind of overwhelmed when a game has too much customability.
Hmm.
This is especially so in actually the latest Pokemon game. I haven't played them very much, mainly because like it's like, oh, you have to do this to get clothes, and you have to do this to do this, and this to do this, and there's just too many options. And I think a lot of enjoyment of a game can be lost when you add too many bells and whistles. So I think that's kind of a benefit of a portable RPG that's on a handheld is it doesn't necessarily have all those things, and if it does, it just has certain elements of it. So I think simplicity is big on the is a big plus design wise.
I'm curious as to what games have overwhelmed you with customizability.
Man, there's quite a few. It's one of the reasons why I don't play a lot of MMOs is because I get overwhelmed by the sheer amount of
Yeah.
menus. You have
Yes.
to you have to hotkey everything to really play the game effectively and properly. It's just there's way too much. Like I would love to play the critically acclaimed MMORPG, but Final Fantasy 14. But literally every time I'm like, I'm gonna try this, I watch a friend play it. I'm like, never mind. No, I'm not. There's too many menus. Please stop.
Okay, so like
So
when the game experience feels like the family PC on which you downloaded 400 Trojan viruses and things just are just popping up everywhere,
yes,
I get
that's what it feels like.
that gets a little bit overwhelming. Um, okay, cool. I just wanted, I was really curious. Isaiah, what about you, man? What are some, if any, aspects that can uh, that define portable RPGs to you?
I agree with Rachel. It's mostly about simplicity and focus. Like, usually RPGs that are on handhelds, they have simplistic visuals that rely a lot on like you kind of having to fill in the gaps on things like animations or usually things like animations, graphics, how a place looks. There's sometimes a bigger reliance on text to convey things. It's I would kind of describe it as like an RPG that you play on the DS is like an RPG you'd have played on the SNES in terms of how it's presented to you.
Hmm.
And with the Switch and hybrid consoles and like portable systems catching up with consoles in terms of power now, that line is
Mhm.
kind of being blurred. That's
Yeah,
not to say that like portable
Yeah.
centric RPGs don't exist anymore,
right.
but like there's less reason to like kind of rely on like what used to define a portable game.
Yeah, no,
So
that's such a good point. That's a good point.
That's
Uh,
why I like why they're and Joey, you're gonna hate me for this.
oh no. Uh,
It's the thing you hate. It's the
no.
3D it's the 3D 2D.
No! God damn it! The third episode in a row.
At least
Guys,
I
you guys are
at
doing
least
this to me
at least I
purposely.
warned you.
No, thank you. I appreciate that. That's
Yeah,
very
I gave you
respectful.
yes, I was like he's gonna hate this, so I'm
yeah,
gonna give him some warning.
yeah,
um,
basically everything Team Asano makes is like fits into that like sort of niche where it feels like a portable RPG, even though the Switch is
yeah,
like a high console.
Yeah, you know
yeah.
what though? I do have to say that. I'm gonna try not to backhand this compliment so I could wow Solstice once again. But I think that you know before it seemed like portable consoles were kind of the graveyard of subgenres because what other games on consoles were doing SRPGs really? You know?
Yeah.
I guess Disgaea, that's one of the only ones I can think of. Like during that PS2 era, and even going into Gen 6, like there weren't really that many like games of that style, and it feels like for more reasons than one, a lot of portable RPGs or just portable games in general were always almost like a generation behind. Like the
Mhm.
GBA was like Isaiah said, it's more like this doing games that have like more of a SNES or that's Gen 3 kind of feel, right?
Right.
And
Hmm.
I wonder about how much of that is like intentional or not, but it gave a lot of subgenres their time to shine. The PSP is an even better example of this
I
because so many good games on that.
I love the PSP. To this day, it is probably my favorite portable console just because I have a whole like messenger bag full of PSP games. Like that's how I have it stored at this time because it's all in one place and they're all in my messenger bag with my PSP with my chargers and all my accessories and they're just there's and all I have is RPGs. Like all of them. They're all RPGs.
Yeah, and there's a couple good ones uh, that are not. Nothing's
Um,
really coming. God of War. I don't know.
Yeah, got a war.
Yeah.
Some of the like the portable Ratchet and Clank guys,
Oh yeah, 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 yeah.
Secret Agent Clank was good. So
I
there's some good stuff. Oh, Patapon, which is a rhythm game. That thing was the bomb. So
there's Guruman.
Oh yeah,
yeah,
Gurman. Yeah, yeah. But that's still kind of. Yeah, yeah. I guess
It has RPG elements, but
yeah.
it's yeah.
I
topical
will
for
say,
the podcast at least.
I will say, Joey, and you know me pretty well that I don't really play SRPGs, but I'm pretty sure the first Disgaea, because I they had a PSP edition if I remember
Yeah, they
correctly.
did. Yeah.
Yeah, there were
And I
PSP and DS
that
versions.
was the only SRPG that I remember completing. So,
Mm.
and I think I completed it just because the voice acting was so good.
The Harl simps everywhere. I swear to God.
I don't believe the PSP version of Tactics Ogre had voice acting.
It did the intro, the narration.
Oh,
The
Yeah.
narration was voiced. Just sorry, I didn't mean to. Well, actually,
I would have preferred they kept it that way.
you know what? That dub does me damage, man, because there's no reason that those voice actors should be giving those performances. Like those are good voice
I
actors.
Mm-hmm.
I hate how you were completely right about that game's dub. When you first said we're gonna get Octopath tier stuff with that, I'm like, it won't be that bad. But yeah.
Solstice said I was being a hater too, and time will tell on you, Solstice. But I was being a hater. That's not uh that's not refutable. But I'm curious because okay, so talking about like subgenres that existed on portable and PSP, I have to bring up Ease because Ease had its like I almost want to say second renaissance or actually first renaissance on the PSP
It did.
because yeah, you
Yep.
had the Origin or not or Chronicles port, and
Mhm,
then you had Ease 7, you
mhm.
had Ark of Nepishtim or Oath and Felgana. I'm just getting everything
Yep.
wrong today.
No, Ark
Uh,
was there too. It's a horrible
oh, that's
port, but
right.
it
Yeah,
was
yeah,
there.
that's right. It is. Yeah, that shitty port. Yeah, that's right. Um, that's right. I forgot. So I wasn't completely wrong. But yeah, I feel like
Yeah,
that gave
there was a lot of
people.
systems on that thing.
Yeah, like that definitely like was that generation's way to play Ease, right? And because they were like a little bit cheaper than a lot of regular RPGs that were
Yeah.
coming out at the time, that is high profile. I feel like yeah, the install base there was good enough for people who were RPG fans.
Right.
And I there's a lot of really cool portable games that are not RPGs, but I definitely I'm in the Rachel zone with portable consoles where like 80%, 90% of what I own on there are RPGs, and I think Pokemon did me dirty. That's actually a good question. Do you guys think Pokemon shaped the way that you personally interact with portable RPGs?
Kind of. I'll say that Pokemon definitely played part in attracting me to Mega Man of all things because I heard Mega Man Battle Network was like that. Mega Man Battle Network 4 was popular in my friend group when I was like 5 or 6 years old. And that had two versions, which were conveniently red and blue.
Yeah.
And my friend gave me the blue version of that game. And then Mega Man proceeded to ruin my life for the next 15 years.
I I I don't think Pokemon shaped my perception or how I interact with portable RPGs, mainly because it was not my first portable RPG. And I know it was a
Really?
lot of no, it was not.
Same.
So my first console ever that I like owned, um my mom and my dad got it for me, and they did not buy me consoles. That was like a rule. This is the only thing we're gonna buy for you. The next one I got was the Game Boy Advance. My grandmother got me that one. And my one of the first RPGs I played on it, no lie, was Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone.
Oh,
because
I
it was an
knew it.
RPG. Exactly.
Wow.
And that wasn't the very first RPG I played, but it was the first like RPG that I played on handheld. Um, First RPG I played was Final Fantasy VII with my best friend at the time, Cassie.
I
So
thought you were gonna say it was that one Lord of the Rings game. That's like
Oh yeah,
FF10.
yeah, I remember that game. Yeah.
yeah, no, I did not play that
I
one,
mean,
but
I
like
think every Harry Potter game is kind of like an RPG because you
or
get to role
mhm.
play the fact that you're not uh contributing to a shitty Terps media franchise. So
cool.
it's like, yeah, I mean, that's like, that's the lie that we tell ourselves that when we play some Harry Potter. I'm sorry, I'm sorry, Rachel.
No,
I
it's
saw an
okay.
opportunity. I had to slide that one in there.
I cannot comment for reasons. So
Yeah.
I will just sit here in
I
silence.
know. I'm sorry. But no. So did you play Pokemon though? Really, ever like growing up, Rachel? Was that ever like a thing?
Yeah,
for you?
yeah. So God, what was I want to say the first one I played was Sapphire. And believe it or not, I'm pretty sure either my friend Cassie got it for me, for the Game Boy Advance, or my friend Kevin, because I was just getting into video games at that time. I wasn't really like into it. I was more of a musical theater person, a book person, and I still am a musical theater and a book person. But at the time, video games, they didn't have like a negative connotation, but they were very much in
Yeah.
my like like place of living, could be seen as a distraction, because there were people in my class and at my school that played to the games to the point of distraction. So my parents didn't want to encourage that kind of lifestyle, so that's why they didn't necessarily buy me consoles. They said, okay, we'll buy you X number of like games a year. Usually very minimal amount, but most of the stuff I had to save for myself. So I knew if I didn't get good grades, which was how I got my money, I didn't get games. So it was that kind of delicate balance. So I tried to pick games that were I picked mainly RPGs or RPG like games, adventure games and stuff that had a relatively good story. But because I knew that I could only play them in short spurts. So I tried to pick stuff that wasn't gonna necessarily overwhelm me with like how much that I had to do and how much to get done. So I owe a lot to my friend Cassie and my friend Kevin
Thanks,
for getting
Cassie
me
and
into
Kevin.
yeah. Uh God rest Kevin's soul, but it's they got me into the games I play now, so I'm very thankful to the both of them.
Hell yeah, and I so you get this FF Legend talk, the Saga 1 talk,
Mm.
and and we were talking about actually, Isaiah. I'm really curious as to what the very first one you played too was, but I will say
My
that
first RPG?
yeah, your first portable RPG.
Oh, Pokemon Ruby.
Oh hell yeah, that's
I
a
got
good
Pokemon
ass one.
Ruby and Crystal as hand-me-downs from my older brother, and
Oh, I almost forgot Crystal. But
and at the time I did not like Crystal for whatever reason. I'm not really sure why. I like Gen 2 just fine now, but yeah, as a little kid I didn't like it. But
I just really like Suicune. Like any girl
Hmm.
my age really liked Suicune.
my sister liked Suicune a lot, so that is apt, I think.
I loved Suicune. I liked it so much more than the other two. I don't know what that says about me. But
I don't know if that says about you either,
yeah,
Joey.
I don't just
I'm gonna have to think about this. This is a lot to unpack.
I mean, look, I like the edgy Pokemon a lot. Like Scyther is my favorite Pokemon. The same hair. Thanks, Angelo. That's very sweet. Suicune hair is honestly probably the best compliment you could give me. But
Honestly, wow, that is a
that's really good. Thank you. It's just flattery. He was like, "Yeah, I was being a little hard on Joey. I'm gonna soften him up a little." But
I don't know that was his reasoning.
no, I don't think so. Maybe it was a dunk. I don't know. I don't know.
It was he's gearing up for that backhanded compliment.
No, I'll meet him with another one. But But no, I find that really interesting because like it does kind of shape a lot of your preferences. And okay, Six brought up a really good point about how he played Pokemon for. I was trying so hard to avoid Pokemon, but you know it is there. It was there in the zeitgeist of like
It
90s handheld stuff. So
it is the most kind of well-known portable RPG out there amongst, the normal crew, like the normal people, like the people who game but aren't necessarily gamers, I
yeah,
guess.
that's I see. Yeah, I get what you're saying. The people who the people whom your mom did not want you to be,
Yeah, the general
or the
public. Yeah.
yeah, or the person that your mom wanted you to be rather. But I will say that Six brought up a good point about how he played Pokemon and expected all Game Boy games to be like that sort of. And let me tell you, brother, Nintendo knew that,
Yeah, they
and
did.
and
They did.
other companies knew that, and they took advantage of that. There's so many like RPGs that were coming out on the Game Boy at that time were re-released. Final
Mhm.
Fantasy Legend 1 through 3 were re-released by Sunsoft to try to take advantage of the upswing in Game Boy sales, and Dragon Quest Monsters, known in the West as Dragon Warrior Monsters. That also was a big thing. You know, you had a game
Mhm.
like, and then Game Boy Color came along, and then you had stuff like, um, they finally ported Last Bible, the Megami Tensei
Mm.
Game Boy game.
Oh
There's a
God,
ton of that
what
stuff.
what was the it was a portable RPG. Was it on the Game Boy Advance? It was I think it was Shin Megami Tensei, but it was for kids, and there was one
Demi
light, and there
Kids.
was Demi Kids. There we go. There we
Actually,
go.
Demi Kids fucking rules. Demi Kids is
Yeah.
legitimately
It's
good.
it's good. It
I
is
have
good.
a friend who's a student in Japan right now, and apparently Demikids is like super cheap on the aftermarket for some reason.
In Japan, because
So
it's definitely
yeah,
not here. Yeah,
No, definitely not here.
I think the GBA, I mean, any Atlas game period, any Megami Tensei game period is going to be expensive, but Demi Kids is like, I think it's like 150 CIB for
Mhm.
GBA game, and there's two versions. But yeah, but I bring this up because, you know, I think my first portable RPG was Final Fantasy Legend 1. And
Nice.
then because it was Final Fantasy, and obviously you get the Final Fantasy, you know. And then Seiken Densetsu 1 or Final Fantasy Adventure was another one of the first ones. So I had played a lot of stuff before Pokemon, but Pokemon definitely made me be like, okay, the quality here, man, is unreal. And maybe I didn't vibe super well with Game Boy back then because it was
Yeah.
really fucking hard for me to see. And by the time Pokemon came out, the Super Game Boy had come out for the Super Nintendo, so it was a lot easier. That's when I really started getting into Game Boy games. Now that I think about it, like I played Gargoyle's Quest on that sucker,
Mhm.
Metroid 2, all Castlevania the Adventure, which I wish would fucking burn forever. But unfortunately, that's not an RPG, man.
No.
Uh, you know, speaking of which, because we were talking about this in the Discord the other day, are the Igavanias, so like Circle of the Moon through Order of Ecclesia, are those? Would you guys consider those RPGs?
no,
I don't have
they have
any.
RPG elements, but they're not RPGs.
Okay.
I haven't played them, so I don't have any input on this, but I will say that games that have just because a game has RPG elements does not an RPG does it make.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah,
Um.
I don't think anyone's calling God of War 2018 an RPG. So
oh no.
Yeah, but I feel like it depends. You know, it depends. My thing is like how much it influences your character growth in the game too, because like
I
you can't
yeah.
grind in God of War. You know, you
No.
can't like grind 100 enemies to be like level 99 or something and one shot everything.
I
Um,
really I really think though that like the popularity of RPGs and RPG like games has really come to the forefront, and it's a very popular now. So I think a lot of game developers are adding RPG type elements to their games and working that in, because it's what people want. So
RPGs they're hard to make good, but they're easy to make satisfying, if that makes sense. And
yeah,
Yeah,
that's
because
because leveling up feels so good.
that's why Star Ocean is so compelling to me. Because, you know, the games themselves are not great, but the general, well, some games are, I don't know. The general flow of them, is just like, it's like it triggers those dopamine receptors, man. It
hmm
works, Dio Field, really good example of this too, where just like the innate satisfaction of like getting a new skill, testing it out, upgrading it.
yeah,
It's always going to be something that, and I feel
right,
like that's what you see a lot of that with portable. I'll make it topical. You see a lot of that with portable RPGs because they're all designed with that. Like, oh, you could again pick up and play. Well, bringing it back to that is that you can flip open that screen, or you can turn your Switch on and you can grind for like 10 minutes, 15 minutes, 20 minutes, and then get some kind of progress. Um, but I do have to flip this back to you get to Isaiah in particular. Solstice asked the devil's advocate question. Um, what is it exactly about an RPG that specifically excludes the Igavanias?
Um, I'd say it's mostly about progression.
Mm,
Like, there's leveling up in Igavania games, but like, you don't, you don't like. Hmm, I actually have to think about how to word that. But I'd say like if you were to like strip an Igavania of like the RPG elements, it wouldn't really be all that different from like how it is right now. Like if
So
you were to play Bloodstained, if say
yeah, I see what you're
you like
saying.
yeah.
I see what you're saying, and I have a really good analogy for you. So, in I personally would consider the Igavanias RPGs. I'm not as like petulant about the definition of the word as most, although I will say that most Zelda games are not. But like, um, that being said, you look at an Igavania-esque game that does not have them, and it's Harmony of Despair because it's like multi. I mean, there are some, sure, like you have Souls, Soma's Souls, and Armor, and that kind of
hmm
stuff. But the character progression is not tied to X experience, incremental
mm
gains in numbers based on level necessarily.
Yeah.
So yeah. Sorry, that's a bit of a sidebar, but I think that I feel like that is a worthy topic to explore here because what a lot of these, especially earlier portable RPGs, were a little bit more lacking. I feel like in substantial character progression. I mean, even like portable versions of some series kind of feel a little bit like, I don't want to say watered down because that sounds pejorative, but maybe streamlined, simplified. And a really good
yeah,
example of this is a
Yeah.
game I just played, and that I've been singing its praises for the last couple days, and it's Valkyrie Profile Covenant of the Plume, which definitely simplifies some elements of the Valkyrie Profile like action elements. That the whole way you progress in those games is like exploring through levels, like like in platforming, enemies on the field, like things that you interact with on the field, and then in Covenant of the Plume, it's all just like SRPG stuff, right? And
yeah,
but it does kind of streamline a little bit. It's like it's not quite as like uh tight with some of
yeah.
its combos necessarily as 1 and 2 are. So, like, man, is that really like a bad thing though? Because we were talking about this before, right? We were talking about how sometimes the choice paralysis thing, and I want to bring up a quote that Six said that maybe we can speak to, and he said that too much customization creates analysis paralysis, which I like the syntax of that. Um, man, what is Do you guys think that portable RPGs tend to not push analysis paralysis on people? Is that just innate in their design?
Analysis paralysis?
Yeah, analysis paralysis.
Do you
Uh,
mean like? Are you asking if like they're more mindless? I guess.
no, just like
No.
there's too much choice. You know, there's too many
S-
outcomes, so you
Oh,
don't know what to do.
I think it kind of depends, but normally they don't really kind of incur that kind of thing because usually they're shorter, they're more straightforward, like, and there's usually like less like console RPGs have like a lot of distractions compared to um portable ones. So there's less like yeah, actually I actually do think that portable RPGs don't really incur that kind of thing.
Has there ever been a game that you picked up uh, and just been like, what the fuck? Like, what? You know, like, just I can't figure this out. Like, what was. Because that happened to me with Etrian Odyssey. I have to say, I mean, I played that game probably older than you did when you first played it. But I played that game, you know, it was like 14, 15. No, I was a little older, 16 or 17, I think it was. And I remember being like, dude, this is so complicated. I don't
Um,
understand.
I think Etrian Odyssey is pretty it's pretty simplistic in terms of progression, but the game is very loose in how it chooses to explain stuff to you. Like what like mainly in like the first couple hours when you're like choosing what kind of party you want to have, what kind of skills you want to give your party members. Stuff like that. But like just playing the game, going through the dungeons, that's pretty easy. Like I would say like progressing in that is easier than say progressing in RPGs with like world maps and stuff because you might not necessarily know where to go with those.
Mhm.
But yeah, Etrian Odyssey is not complicated. It's just kind of obtuse.
Yeah, and man, it's just another thing that Six just said too. He said, I think customization is oftentimes, I'm paraphrasing, customization is oftentimes the lazy solution, which I hate to use the word lazy in terms of game
Yeah.
development. But
Yeah.
we actually did touch on this, and Rachel, you mentioned that like sometimes the base, or Isaiah, sorry, you mentioned that like just sometimes the base aspect of an RPG is often it's easy to make an RPG that's satisfying, right?
Yeah.
Why is my
Yeah.
phone going off? It is literally on silent. I have no idea. I'm
It's
like looking
haunted.
at the thing. Yeah, it's literally a haunted phone. It doesn't ring when I want it to, but it's like I put it on silent. Like I think you guys saw me go on my
Oh
phone
yeah.
and put it on silent. Yeah,
I
that's
I watched you do it. Yeah.
you love to see it. But yeah, I feel like that. You know, that's the case in point right there. Like I feel like with a lot of portable games that developers are probably like, yeah, again going back to the pick up and play. You know, you see that improvement. Like every time you flip the game open, turn it on, there's a little bit of growth in your character,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah.
And I feel like, man, that's actually good question here. Do you guys think portable RPGs are more or less bingeable than console RPGs?
Oh, more easily.
Oh yeah.
More,
For
really?
I think it's well I think I wouldn't say bingeable. They're just I would say they're more consumable, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
You can
like
sit down, like you can easily sit and like I work a lot. I don't do this as much as I used to, but I used to bring a portable with me, like to work to play on my lunch breaks. And I could sit and play it for the entirety of my lunch break while enjoying my lunch. And I could do that every day and be completely fine. But then when I get home from work and I'm like, okay, I want to sit down and play a game. It could be a very similar game, but on a home console. And I sit down and I go to play it. I play it for 15 minutes and I go, "I- I'm not in the mood for this anymore."
Mm.
So I think I think it goes back to the overwhelmingness of it. There are a lot of RPGs or at least in the last, like, it's not so much now. I do admit game developers have done a lot better job about this in recent years, but in many years ago, when you sit down and you would pick up an RPG, an absolutely massive one that you might not ever finish, and it can be overwhelming because you are overloaded with customization and options. The game has info dumped on you, and it's just too much to process, if that makes sense. Like,
Is it?
there's
Yeah,
a
no,
lot
no,
of things
no.
going on.
No, is it like a a movie TV show dilemma
I
to
think
you?
so. Yeah. I like, so when I play games, I play games the same way I read books, the same way I watch movies, the same way I watch TV shows. I am playing it for escapism, I'm playing it for the story, and I'm playing it for my own personal enjoyment. I'm not looking to analyze anything. I'm not doing it for um to review the game, so I'm not like really going hard in the gameplay. I just play it to have fun. And if I find myself overwhelmed or bogged down by options, I'm not having fun anymore. You know?
Mm. Yeah, no, I feel that. It's funny because I'm sort of the opposite. And I think this is practical. I think this is a practical thing to me because, you know, for me to sit down, I can't sit down on my couch and play a video game. Never been
Hmm.
able to do it because I need to be right up next to the thing that I'm playing because I can't fucking see it. And especially if I'm playing an action game, even an RPG, because
Hmm.
if I need to look at text or read text, I need to see it. I would like to see it.
Yeah.
And like it's insane because like from like right here to right here is a difference of being able to make out fine details to me. So
I I
so
have
yeah.
noticed too. I have noticed too, and this is just for me personally, as I've gotten older, my attention span for games, I don't know that it's less, but it's just I almost have to schedule it. Not really schedule it, but like when I'm in the mood for something, I have to do it right then or I won't do it at all,
Gotcha.
if
Yeah.
that makes sense.
Yeah.
So a lot of times with portable RPGs, it's more accessible
Yeah. It's right in
that
front of
way.
you.
It's right in front of me. Like I can go, "Oh man, I want to play Avalon Code," just to
Mhm.
pull out a random RPG
That's
just
a good.
out
That's
of
a
the blue.
good deep cut
Yeah,
too. That was good.
yeah. Like nobody has played that game. You slam a book onto enemies and record them by slamming the book onto enemies. It's wild. But yeah. Oh, and yeah, there's another good point. I have less patience for games now than I did. So if a game like doesn't immediately grab me, um a lot of times will not play it anymore for like a long time. There's probably about like 5 or 6 games that I own right now that I could like trade in at ye old stop of game and not even remotely feel bad about like getting an like undervalued for them, mainly because I did not like them, and 3 of those are RPGs. I won't name drop them on here though, because
I
that would be rude. So,
I'm no, go for it. I
oh,
know one of
dear.
them.
Oh, you do?
Is it Astria Ascending?
No, it's
Is
Edge
it
of
the name?
Eternity.
Oh, that's the one I was thinking of. Fuck, it's
Wait,
the one
that's
with the cool cover art and the
The
good
cool, the
developers,
real,
but the
yeah, they're
shitty game.
yeah. So
that's the is that the game with the gunplay or
no.
No,
So
that's Resident of
it's that
Fate.
Chinese game that just came out
so
recently,
it's
I
made.
think.
They're
Oh,
made
that's
by
different.
was made by French developers. They're very.
Oh,
It's they're it's a look. It looks like a really pretty game, and you can tell they put a lot of heart into it. Um, and the music is good, the cover art is good, but I think they spent a large portion of their there it is. Yep. Oh yeah,
This is
that's
the one I was thinking of. So I was
it's
technically.
it's really funny, Joey. The cover art is very similar. Like
Yeah,
I
yeah,
would
yeah, yeah.
I would get up right now and grab it.
Uh,
But like,
Damn, I just got Mandela. I
yeah,
can't believe that.
honestly.
Oh, wow.
Oh gosh, Solstice just brought up a really good point.
Oh, End of Eternity is yeah, but she said didn't you say Edge of Eternity?
Edge of
Yeah.
Eternity. Yeah.
God, the fucking Berenstein Bears thing again,
Yeah.
bro.
Yeah.
Fuck.
But I will say Resonance of Fate, fever dream. Like I
Mhm.
remember seeing that game everywhere on the walls
Wait, it's
in
called
my
Resonance of Fate and End of Eternity? Why does that
In
have two different
In
names?
Japan, it's End of
yeah.
Eternity. That was like its title before. I think they wanted to change it in the West for some reason. I forgot.
Oh, it's
Isn't it
another
like a
jet radio situation.
oh,
Gotcha.
isn't Resonance is Resonance of Fate a rail is it a rail shooter or is it I
No,
all I know is it's an
it's an
RPG
RPG.
with guns. It's
Yeah,
Yeah,
got guns.
that's
it's
yeah.
still like
It's
turn
wild.
like
All I remember is
it's
there's a weird scene with a chandelier. That's all I remember.
yeah,
But
it's not like say like Panzer Dragoon Saga.
oh yeah.
It's
Mm.
it's still an RPG. It's
But
like a
Wait, Panzer Dragoon. Yeah, yeah. I was like, wait a second. Actually, Panzer Dragoon Shock. So Edge of Eternity. That's so funny because I thought that this was the same game as Asria Ascending. Sorry,
we all
I just
we all got very confused. Like all of the wires got crossed.
damn no, and it's like there
Uh,
is like a through line between all these games, kind of, sort of.
So
No, I
this
have
is
not played Asria Ascending.
this brings up I think a good point and I think would be an interesting future topic is a lot of RPGs, specifically JRPGs or games of that style, a lot of titles are very similar and you can get them totally confused even if
Yeah.
they were published like decades apart.
And then you got shit like Tales of Destiny, you know, where
Yeah.
it's like the first, so fucking convoluted. Like,
Will we ever see the ones that we didn't get in the States? I had hopes when they put out Tales of Hearts R on the PS Vita, but they put it on the PS Vita.
yeah, poor thing. The Vita never like Vita's such a. It could have been such a good
It-
contender to the 3DS.
and
In
I
a lot of
had
ways,
when
it was.
I got it at launch and I had a great time with it. I don't have it anymore. I don't remember why I don't have it anymore, but um it felt like okay, this is going to be one of those RPG consoles again, like the PSP was. And that brings up a good point is a lot of people bring up I've noticed over the years is they'll bring up certain consoles like this is the home of RPGs. Right now people are saying the Switch is the home of RPGs,
Mm.
which they're not completely wrong, but you know, I'd say many years ago, many years way back in the day, I'd say probably the PSP at one point was a good home for RPGs. And then of course the Game Boy Color too. So, but
Yeah, no, I think, man, that's we didn't really talk about the Vita. Isaiah, did you have a Vita?
I had a PSTV, if that counts.
Yeah, that does count. Yeah. Did you play anything interesting on there that you would want to talk about real quick?
Let me think. I got a PSTV after I played Persona 4 Golden for like a couple hours on my friend's Vita, and I liked it so much that I got a PSTV. So I played.
Oh yeah.
That's pretty much how I binged Persona 1 through 4. And then from there, I didn't really use it that much. I mostly just went back and played like PSP games on it. Like I replayed Monster Hunter Freedom Unite. I played Monster Hunter Portable Third. Um, but as far as like standard RPGs goes, I think I played like well, God Eater's not really like a standard RPG. That's like more like
No.
another Monster Hunter.
Yeah, it feels
But-
like
Yeah.
Monster Hunter by the way of like, I don't know, fucking Beautiful Joe almost.
Yeah.
You know, like or
Yeah, I
or
can see
Platinum
that.
Games or something. Yeah.
You know, I'm kind of sad that I missed out on the PSTV, mainly because like it was a really good way to consume both Vita
They were
and PSP titles.
And they were $20, and I fucking didn't buy it because I was an
Yeah.
idiot, dude.
Yeah, I was dumb. And now of course, you know, you can't get them. And
Yeah.
what are you going to play on them? Like,
Vita games, I guess.
I guess.
I'm actually really curious. PST, yeah, they're like 100.
Well, you know what? If I find one at a thrift store or a garage sale, if I find two, I will get one for me and I will get one for you, Joey.
Oh, you're the best friend. That is the sweetest thing. Everyone's buttering me up today. I don't know what. Someone's gonna tell me like there's gonna be like there's a Google Doc is coming for me. I don't know what I did, but it's coming for me, and everyone's just buttering me up.
Oh gosh, you could feel it like just it's like I don't know when it's gonna happen, but I'm just gonna get a Google
I-
Doc link and it's
I'm
gonna
gonna
be something.
get canceled for my HD2D hate. I swear to God, I'm gonna like, and it's gonna be my fault because I'm gonna say something that like I definitely don't mean, and it's gonna be a landslide. But speaking of
I
lands,
have
hmm?
feelings on HD2D games as well. I like them for remakes. Well, some remakes at least. I really like how Dragon Quest looks, and I haven't played Live a Live yet, but I think that one looks pretty good too. But like for like original games like Octopath and Triangle Strategy, it's whatever. I don't mind it. I don't really like it either though.
I'll let the HD2D discourse slide in this context because Switch is technically a portable system. And speaking of portable systems, that is a portable dog that we have on camera. Folks, if you're not watching the VOD, you're missing out. If you're not catching these streams live, you're missing out. But yeah, this is about the time that we probably should be wrapping up. I'm sorry if anyone had anything to say that you would have liked to talk about or et cetera, but I try to keep these things in the interest of brevity. So, real quick, one thing we do at the end of the show that I've kind of noticed is that we try to recommend a game to other people who have not played it. And my recommendation for you guys, and I'm trying to keep it topical, so a portable game. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to recommend a little game called Sands of Destruction for the DS.
I know that fucking game. I know that game. I watched the anime for it.
Oh, I didn't know there was an anime for it. Interesting. So this game is super interesting. It's one of those games where you kind of play as the villain.
Yeah, you play as people trying to destroy the world.
It's fucking sick. And like there's timing based stuff, like fighting game motion inputs. It's really sick. I don't think I ever finished it, but I need to track down a copy because I definitely sold that game, and that is like literally one of the most expensive DS games. So you hate to see it. I'm talking about I'm recommending Rachel and Isaiah play Sands of Destruction. But
I have
also,
had 10 separate opportunities to buy that game and I never have.
it's a sick game. Again, it's very expensive. If you see a copy of that game for under $100 CIB, just buy it. Just buy it.
For you?
Maybe not. Yeah, you know what? For me, why not? But what about you, Isaiah? What's something that you would recommend?
A portable RPG I would recommend is the Mega Man Battle Network games. Just wait for the Legacy Collection, TBH. Because those are like the perfect example of how to do like content-rich games to me. Because like you can 100% those games, feel like you've done a lot, and realize you've only spent like 30, 40 hours on it. It's not like a lot of RPGs don't really respect my time. I was playing Xenoblade 3 the other day, and that game has so much shit to do in it, but at the same time, like, I kind of don't want to do it because of how long it takes.
Yeah, I
I'll
feel
promise
that
I'll
though.
stop being a Xenoblade 3 hater one of these days.
Oh, maybe one day when I swear to God, you're gonna come back around in that game so hard. I know it's gonna happen. I mean, I'm kind of exaggerating because I know you didn't hate it, but like, and I actually do share a lot of your criticisms, to be honest. But yeah, I feel like that's a game. I'm really curious to see how we revisit that game in the future because that's like that's sometimes I leave like a little bit of leeway with certain games about like I'm still not quite sure how I feel. I feel like Death Stranding is also one of those games. Sorry, I don't mean to take up more time. Rachel, any recommendations that you'd like to throw out?
Well, I already name dropped Avalon Code
Avalon Code
earlier.
is sick, yeah.
Yeah. So I'm not gonna so y'all have already heard about that one, but I will recommend another one, which is of course Radiant Historia.
Oh,
which,
hell
yeah.
yeah. How do we not talk about this? Damn it.
Yeah.
That game
So
is so great.
I want to say I have both editions. I think maybe possibly.
I have not played the 3DS remake yet, but I've loved the DS game.
So they're gorgeous. And talk about being overwhelmed with options, but it doesn't
Yeah.
really matter that you're overwhelmed with options because it just if you're not pleased with how you ended it the first time, you play it again and just make a different choice. Like that's what it is. And you can of course go back along the timeline and stuff like that. So it's a very unique game with a very gorgeous art style that's very unique. And if you haven't played it, it's is a good time. It's a little I want to say the like DS version is a little hard to find now.
It's
Almost
the
impossible.
3DS one is actually more expensive. Funny enough.
Yes, which
the
is
three
really
the
funny.
3DS one, because it came out on the DS originally, and it
Mhm.
got like a remaster with some goofy changes apparently, like kind of like very strange like they changed the art or the portraits and stuff, and
Some of
Yeah.
them, yeah.
and then there's like DLC for the
The
old
original
ones.
art,
Yeah,
yeah.
that's so
There's
weird.
also I think there's DLC too, but I think the DLC was free, if I remember correctly.
Okay, cool.
And then I think there was DLC for like the music too, as well, because it was just a great time.
Yeah, I have not played the 3DS version, but I played through that on the DS. Also Avalon Code very expensive right now. I don't own it anymore, and it's like $150. You hate to see it. Hate to see it.
Who made that?
Avalon Code? Oh, I don't
Oh,
know.
Marvelous.
Oh,
wait, no.
really? Wait, no, it was
Oh
a
wait, no, they were
Matrix
just a
game.
publisher. Never mind. Matrix Software. I think
Yeah,
I've heard
yeah.
of them.
I have Avalon Code. Heck,
Damn.
I might charge. I don't have the case. I've never been
Oh,
lucky
okay,
enough.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
I think
I've
even
never
then you're
been.
probably looking like $50, $60.
Oh yeah,
though.
I'm one of those weird people that I get really lucky with like games at yard sales and thrift stores. Like I will just find them, and they find me.
Yeah,
But
it's like a
This
monkey's paw.
kind of reminds me
Yeah.
of East. Huh.
Oh, another thing about Radiant Historia is that the 3DS version's very expensive physically, but it's often on sale digitally. So you can get it for like
Mhm.
$20, $15. One last thing about Sands of Destruction, because I really recommend everyone at least check this game out in some way. Yasunori Mitsuda soundtrack.
Let's
I
go.
say no more, right?
I
Speaking of
love that man.
Speaking of saying no more, I'm gonna not say anything else. I'm gonna give you guys this opportunity to plug your socials and your content. Isaiah, we'll start with you.
Check out nookgaming.com. I have video game reviews on there. And I should have one of Sonic Frontiers up when the embargo lifts, hopefully.
Hell yeah.
Heck yeah.
That's his Twitter. You go ahead and follow him right there. And Rachel, how about you?
So you can find me on Twitch at twitch.tv/outrageous. That's OUTRACHEOUS. Yeah. But of course I believe my Twitter's up on the screen, which is out_rageous, spelled the exact same way. I stream a couple times a week and I post a lot of just thoughts on Twitter. Sometimes they're video game related, sometimes they're not. But yeah, I just have a good time interacting with people, honestly, especially you guys. So
Yeah, and thank you guys for so much for jumping on. We will be doing Super RPG Friends on Thursday,
I'm
which is
pumped.
tomorrow. FF7. We are still in the very beginning of FF7. We have, I believe, Charlie from Android Central, and I don't remember. Mr. Venicor. So, who is actually live? Actually, that's perfect because that's who we will be rating, right? But yeah, thank you guys so much for hanging out. I really appreciate you guys coming on here. I've been trying to get you guys on here for a while, so it's awesome to have you all aboard. And thanks to everybody in the chat for hanging out and memeing and all that good stuff. We will be doing this next week at an hour earlier, actually, because we have some UK folks joining us. So we'll be live at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time instead of 7. So cool. Thank you guys so much. Take care, y'all. Have a great night. Fuck HD2D.
Rude.